Good evening and welcome to the Dreaming Prophet. If you haven't followed us already on Twitter, go take a peek. We're located at the Dreaming PC. Remember, like and subscribe, kids, and don't forget to shoo away the Neil Gaiman fan cult rapping on our windows. Because, name aside, it's hard to run a Sandman podcast when VCRs didn't even exist in 1996.
I'm pretty sure nothing existed in 1996, not even me.
That's horrifying. Just like our show tonight. My name's Lavanya.
I'm Astro.
And I'm Xavier.
This is a Blackout Club show for Blackout Club players with minimal speculation, all lore, and focus on the known facts. Our topic of the day is a plot roundup.
For this episode, we are going to be covering the current ongoing plot as of November 3rd, 2019, of the Blackout Club. If you are looking to avoid spoilers for the Unknown Caller plotline or the overall plotline that is currently running, don't listen to this. We are deep diving. And our content warnings for today are, as always, general horror, possession, by which I do not mean possession of drugs, paraphilia, or illicit material, but instead possession of the spiritual kind, and harm to children, because is it a The Blackout Club episode if we are not discussing harm to children?
Hi, it's Astro from the future. The contents of this episode are way more out of date than we anticipated. However, the reality is that there will always be new players and we will always have to tell these stories again. Therefore, we're preserving the episode as it was. In a later episode, we'll address the changes that happened after November 3rd, 2019. Thanks and enjoy the show.
The Blackout Club is not a traditional game in how it presents its narrative to the players. Most games have quests, they have set guidelines for the players to follow. The players are led directly to the story, and they are shown what they should be learning. The Blackout Club does not hold your hand, for better or worse, during the story process. So players tend to find their own plots from the material they are presented with and follow up on the things that interest them the most. While playing the game, players usually latch onto one of several plots that are introduced by the journal, by dreams, or by encounters with the daemons or Unknown Caller.
There is some overlap between these plots. They are not explicitly separate. Plots change and develop over time. At this time of recording, which is November 3rd, 2019, the information here is up to date. If things change between recording and posting, oh well, we have to record sometime, so consider this a time capsule.
So one of the major plot lines that most of the players are following, to some extent or another, is what we refer to fondly as the War Games plotline. The major conflict of this is the idea versus Speak as One. It is essentially the overall narrative of the game at this point in time, which is the idea wants the children of Redacre to be free to frolic, enjoy life, and have fun in the sun. While Speak as One is just a particularly peevish nanny bot who just wants all of their children to fall in line.
Both sides are gearing up for an all-out war, and as such, they've begun to seek alliances. Right now, the only established alliance is Die For You, who has chosen to ally himself publicly with the I Dare. He conveyed this through what we refer to affectionately as a godcast, where the gods speak to the players in the boxcar. However, both sides are currently looking at other possible alliances. Here's just a few.
The first of the possible alliances is the Measure Cuts and Speak as One. Now, mind, these are not ships, so we don't have any fancy ship names. But if we did, for the record, they would have the best ship name of all. The basis of this alliance is essentially that the Measure Cuts in the past has worked closely with Speak as One, and he is the latest god to have actually left the Accord, as Speak as One referred to it. Unfortunately, given that the Measure Cuts is the latest to have left, he is also going to be the hardest of them all to bring back. So, as Noel keeps lovingly reminding us on the Discord, it's not a very plausible alliance. But the possibility still exists out there.
And speaking of leaving alliances, In Her Teeth and Laugh Last had one for we're not sure how long, which ended not so amicably. But who knows? Rebounds are always possible. And speaking of rebounds, Laugh Last is keeping his eyes on Seed the Grudge. Unfortunately, he has a type, which he has made abundantly clear to me.
Unfortunately. It's important to note with these two Laughlast alliances that ultimately, even though Laughlast is busy chasing this metaphorical tail all across the moon, these are equally unlikely in some ways as the first alliance that we mentioned. After all, allying with Laughlast means that you'd have to be in the room with him for more than 5 minutes, and I don't think anyone could stand that.
Ow! This is why the measure cuts and salts your hair.
And those are just some of our ideas off the top of our heads. But what's important to note here is that the key point that we've discovered with the alliances, specifically the idea and die for you one, is that this is a player-led narrative. Is there a certain combination of gods that you want to see interact and ally? Then go out there and start pursuing it aggressively. You can send off lights of rebellion, you can get involved, and if there's any particular god combinations that you don't like, you can also get involved with that. Don't try to cancel TMC and SAO. I will cry on you.
You don't have to try. You just have to exist, and it's not going to happen.
Shut up, Xavier. So to start this off, we took a moment to talk to a player about the state of affairs in Redacre. He really likes military strategy, so kind of played into that. I guess this is as good a point as any. Can you share a fun fact about yourself for the intro section?
Well, a fun fact about myself is that my nickname on the Discord, usually it speaks in French, and this is because of a terrible incident that happened during one of my first play of the Blackout Club. Basically, I was playing with my French friends, and we were like, okay, be careful, guys. We just unlocked the Stalker. They may attack. And I think we mistook TID for a Stalker. And he was like, no, I am no Stalker, I am God. And we were like, yeah, that's exactly what a Stalker would say.
Oh my fucking god. This is Amanes. He can be found on the Discord as Blathering in French /Amanes. He is a French TMC follower, which I'm sure will shock and appall you to find out, with a number of fascinating theories. One example is his equilibrium theory, which we don't have time to dig into fully on this episode, but you can see in the link section. Go ahead and read it. It is fucking magnificent. Where can people find you in the Blackout Club community? Do you have a Twitter, or are you just mostly on the Discord?
I am mostly on the Discord for the Blackout Club things. I am also on the wiki as one of the editors.
Alliances are big right now, given Die For You and the idea of pulling off their whole team-up shtick. So, are you interested in any alliances for the measure cuts?
Well, as far as the measure cuts, well, we don't know much about his view on the Alliance. Basically, we know for sure that apparently he was the one to give the God Rock for the announcement. After that, we don't know much except that he still distrusts the idea, specifically in one instance of a dream to the TID chosen Jan Fuzzball. I think I butcher her name too, but well, basically he said that when TID will inevitably get that is chosen killed, he will be there to record the corpses. So we don't really know for sure his position on the whole alliance thing. And well, for my personal opinion, I think there's just too much stacked against us to make a real war possible. We should tail it as soon as possible to gather reinforcements, maybe on a military well, I'm a military strategy buff, so I can use the art of war, but well, there's everything stacked against the club, and I don't think an open war will solve anything. In fact, it may even push Speak as One to take more drastic actions.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And that is a valid concern to have, I think, especially given the whole general escalation that the story's been building up on us.
Well, the escalation of violence is palpable. Well, except with Lauflast, who apparently has other things to do during the war.
Lauflast is here for the fun of it and to ferment eggs to throw at people, I guess. That's his contribution. The most fascinating thing that Amanes brought up in this interview is pointing out that the game stacks all odds against the players. As we mentioned in one of the last few episodes, players play as children against adults. That's inherently going to put you at a severe imbalance, with the players not getting the good end of that deal. Speak as One has thousands of hosts, or possibly just hundreds, depending on how absolutely minuscule Redacre is, but that's still a lot more than anyone else. Other gods only have a handful in Redacre. They have to hide, or else they have to worry that Speak as One will once again go full genocide on them.
And even though Speak as One is the antagonist, there are real reasons to join them, especially since the other gods look pretty sketchy in the right light. SAO is community, order, unity. They talk about forgiveness. And you have to remember that they have your whole family.
There's nothing that inspires forgiveness a little more than blackmail.
It's just hard for a lot of people to want to fight not only against the entire town, but against their own loved ones, even if they've kept us in the dark for so long. But then again, the game keeps stressing some of these kids just fucking die.
And that is demoralizing in a way that few other things are. So it's not that surprising that a strategist would look at Redacre and say, wow, holy fuck, this is a fight that we are absolutely going to lose.
There's, of course, well, if the Alliance proposes something, I will, of course, consider it, but I can also consider the other side, because if we can get peace for most people who are not trying to get into an open war, at least it will save the most people and will allow the most people to get out.
Oh, right. And that's the primary goal of this. You primarily want to make sure that the various residents of Redacre aren't caught up in all this shit, yeah?
Well, from a kid's standpoint, there's the whole thing about the World Club getting entangled with the voices, but there's also characters like the Whisper Twins, like, oh, do you think we'll ever win this? And the other thing, come on, you're killing me with this. I'm just trying to survive till junior prom. And basically, that's protecting these people that might be interesting, because you just can't expect everyone to follow you into your war. Yes, basically, I think if you want to sacrifice for your voice or your ideal or whatever, well, this is fine from a standpoint. I mean, go ahead. It's not like I'm retaining you, but for the people who are not invested in voice, who are just caught up in the middle, resistance in our current situation, because, well, we are outnumbered, we are outgunned, we are out of supplies. Remember that we need to pick literally from trash to survive. And, well, if I wanted to fight, I would choose another day to do so. Well, from a military standpoint, you just don't attack on their chosen ground while being outnumbered, with nowhere to go, with no plan if things go south, and do not rely on anything except a miracle and the power of friendship to go through.
The demons want to divide us between them. Where do you fall? If you're interested in forming alliances, start sending out lights, start asking questions. Always remember, alliances are a good way to connect with other followers of your daemon in the community. Reach out, send some DMs, see who else is interested in pursuing this with you.
And remember, nothing is free, but some prices might be worth paying.
Yeah, they will keep a tab and they will remember all that they've given you. And eventually they are going to start making requests in return.
There are a lot of questions in the Blackout Club that may never be answered, but that's not going to stop us from asking them. One of the recurring questions is about what the demons are, where they've been, and when they were there.
Unfortunately, even the daemons don't seem to know the answers to this. For instance, the measure cuts often praise our skepticism, but seems to have a lot of it himself about the origins and what their purpose really is.
Some of the journals that you can look to for information on this are the Dead Skeptic Excerpt 9, the Chat with Bell's transcript, and the Chat with Gwen transcript.
Daemons are functionally viruses or a type of parasites in terms of how they behave and how they interact with humanity in general. But the question is, are they supernatural or are they natural? Did humanity come first or the voices? Is it the chicken or the fucking egg? We talked about this more in episode 9, A Field Guide to Daemons, so if that interests you, take a listen.
But at the end of the day, the answers the game provides sum up to who knows. And a question to consider, does it matter and why? We have some out-of-game chatter on this topic. In Discord, in the Spoilers and Speculations chat, we had a question asked. Noel, if you could give the voices a design, would you? Or do you like them being as just a voice?
And Noel's answer was fucking fascinating. He said, voice, I want you projecting onto them, close as possible to their intent as code to rewrite you, while making you think it was all your idea. He did a second statement later on where he further defined it, stating, there's a sort of Occam's razor that was important to me with the TBC voices. Parasite/host language is useful as a metaphor, but ultimately they are made of belief, thought, deeply subjective experience. It is hard to prove that they exist at all, which is why they are so insidious. Noel has told us that the timeline of the Blackout Club is intentionally loose to allow creative wiggle room. We're probably never going to have an exact, perfect timeline breaking it down by the dates, and unfortunately, we're probably never going to have one that breaks it even down by the years. That's perfectly okay.
How else would we have long discussions about what the possible plotline and timeline could be?
We're never going to have a definite answer to what the daemons are. We're never going to have an exact timeline. We're not going to have a lot of things ever fully explained, and that's okay. That's part of what makes horror horror.
You can't have fear of the unknown if you know every little bit about it. And what our new friend, the unknown caller, tells us is that we can't trust the daemons because, quote, they did this before. There have been towns before Redacre where these events have occurred and where children have been used. The younger the kid, the bigger the sacrifice. And for all we know, right now there are tons of other cities all over the world where the same thing is happening as in Redacre.
But that leads us to the important question, who the fuck is the unknown caller and why are they texting 14-year-olds in the middle of the night?
It's an interesting question because the unknown caller has kind of become their own plotline. What we know is that they send texts to kids, usually kids who run solo. They appear in the in-game messaging system on the right-hand side of your screen.
Now you would think, oh no, the unknown caller is so afraid of being possessed by a daemon that they would just stay awake all day, because if you're out and about during the daytime, little things like your eyes rolling back in your head might be a little bit more noticeable, but no. They prefer to be up and wilding about in the middle of the night, because it turns out when you do things like piss in the wood as a hobby, you have to make sure that it's dark enough that no one can see you. You might say that's a little bit of a weird hobby, Lavanya. Why did they pursue that instead of knitting? But look on the bright side. It's pissing in the woods or pissing in Mountain Dew bottles in their shady-ass van. We should all be grateful for the choice they've made.
The best way to reply to these texts is through typing in the in-game chat. So far, Unknown Caller has only been reported on PC. However, the population of the community Discord trends heavily towards PC. If they've appeared on console, no one has reported it yet.
The sent from bar on every text says unknown caller, so that's what we call them. Well, that and UC. We don't know their real name, but they know a remarkable amount about us. Guess all those late nights stalking the roads watching children has really paid off.
They're not from Redacre, but supposedly they're an adult or at least old enough to drive, hopefully. They have information, but they need help. We'll talk more about that in a minute.
The one thing we know about them is that they do not like the daemons. Most of the kids who have been contacted by the UC are either chosen or well associated with a voice. Usually the Adair followers, but not exclusively.
It's important to note that if you show signs of association with demons, they will cut contact. They have returned to contact some of the players who are obviously aligned in the past, but better not to risk it because I don't think that it's happened with every single player. So if you're trying to get the unknown caller to send you midnight text, remember, don't wear chosen shirts, don't wear halos, don't talk about demons or demon interactions on main, and put away that stalker jacket. Stalker catcher jacket might be fine, but they're probably still going to judge you. They'll judge you regardless, but they'll judge you a little bit more. Most of their current player contacts lie about their associations in order to avoid this. So far, it hasn't been called out. So far, Unknown Caller, despite all of their stalking, has not quite figured out who's telling the truth and who's not, but that's not a guarantee that will last in the future.
You know what? Thinking about it, they're awfully judgy for somebody who lives out of their van and probably hasn't washed their clothes in literal weeks.
It's fine, neither have we.
The caller speaks very indirectly, in code. SAO followers are called ZZZ types. They give kids passwords that they expect upon next contact, and when making that next contact, will sometimes act as if they're texting about study group or something else disingenuous.
Yeah, they just kind of sneak up on us in their van with their skateboards slung over their shoulder, telling us, "How do you do, fellow kids? How about those study groups?" But we know better.
But despite their dislike of demons, they're apparently under Dance for Us's protection. Why? Who knows? Dance for Us says the unknown caller has no idea. She told us about this in a boxcar message, a godcast. She says they're onto something and told us to, quote, be cool, end quote. The caller has been investigating one of the biggest plot threads right now. We start at the scene of the crime. 92 Hoadley is home to Nayeli and Siobhan, a married couple. The journals related to the incident are Baby Books 1 through 3 and the RPD police report, all under the house number. Colm Ryan is an artist and sculptor, brother of Siobhan. He's visiting Redacre as part of Siobhan's plan to have a baby related to both parents. He stays for, presumably, the entirety of Nayeli's pregnancy. Towards the end, weird shit happens.
So, I know you, but our audience doesn't. So, can you introduce yourself?
Yes. Hi, my name is Cass. I go by LunaticParade on Steam, and you can catch me around the main Discord for the Blackout Club. And sometimes I spend my free time researching pants, because that's my idea of a fun on a Thursday night.
So, Cass, what plot lines are you pursuing in-game right now?
Major plot lines I'm pursuing are the unknown caller and the mystery of the symbol in 922.
And speaking of the symbol, we know some things about it. We know it was once the symbol of the god that we now call Nameless, and that her name was Chase the Sun. In Old Tongue, it's the gesture by the same name that kids can perform.
The symbol was created by Colm Ryan, who, before, was her only host in Redacre. The symbol was broken in the incident. Somewhere in the same time frame, Chase the Sun had her name stolen, leaving her weakened and confused. She isn't speaking anymore.
When gods see it, they suffer. The Adair is unable to speak to more than one person because it impacted all of his hosts so fucking much. According to both the Adair and Speak as One, simply breaking her symbol wouldn't have had a profound effect on her. Speak as One has further elaborated, stating that symbols just don't have that much effect on demons. They are a means of referring to them, but by themselves, they don't have the same power that, say, a name does. The Adair also confirmed this, stating that the circumstances of the symbol itself are unimportant. What mattered was the man, not the symbol.
So, what happened? We have clues in the form of the logs. Colm Ryan talked in his sleep, not like the sleepers, but in song, specifically polyphonic overtone singing. It means he can sing in 2 notes at once. Through this, demons can communicate coherently with each other.
According to the Unknown Caller, Colm recorded himself sleep-talking, and Unknown Caller obtained the recordings. They can't comprehend them, however, and they say that the kids can understand what's being said. The Unknown Caller will play slowed-down of the audio for us multiple times, and over time, words will form.
Noel says, "This is nerdy, but some of you are nerds. In fiction, the voice you hear is being constructed in the listener's head as you listen. The sleep talker is just uttering subverbal musical cues that have been slowed way down for this recording. Colm's got a different accent. You can't really record a voice," he says, with capital V. End quote. In a different line, he said, "Colm's speaking voice wouldn't be the same as what a kid's head makes out of that ancient pre-verbal melody." End quote.
I have spoken to the caller, and they actually gave me a password to use the next time they came in, so that was exciting. But essentially, they were very concerned about whether or not I had been personally contacted by the gods, and I lied. Oops. They're not big fans of, people following the gods, obviously, because the caller is very, very paranoid and trusts none of them with, honestly, very good reason, considering that they can turn on you at any time, and since they live in your brain, you'll never know when they will turn on you. But essentially, they said that the information they have will help my friends stop being so, quote-unquote, moony-eyed over the voices.
Since we interviewed Cass, the unknown caller returned. Cass gave their password, and the unknown caller sent them one of the audio files that the community has compiled so far. Here are the clips we have right now. "This body is not mine. How is he hosting me?
Roaming these woods for 2 hunters.
They hunt me while you play fox in the henhouse.
No one cares about what's fair anymore. They want power, no matter the price."
They also, very interestingly, did not know Colm Ryan before getting that recording. They actually said that when I brought up his name and asked if it was him, they said that they had seen that name on a piece of mail, and that the rest of the mail to the household was going to people with female names. So that lends the question then, how exactly did the caller know that that piece of information, that recording was actually there and accessible to them? We learned from someone else's chat that the idea seems to think that the caller might be a thief, which makes sense, but that still doesn't answer the question of how did they know that this recording was there?
So, how did you get started on this?
Well, my character, Sophie, is very, very tied in with the idea. They say he's shaped like a friend, which is probably a terrible idea, but they're 14. Anyway, but when they started getting sick from looking at the symbol, Sophie started trying to do some digging into the symbol. But the part that really kicked off that particular plot line that led into the caller was actually the finding of the fragment in 922, which was confirmed that Colm Ryan was the fragment in 922. And at the time, we had thought he was dead, and now we're hearing that he might not have been dead, and that the voice came from him personally. What did this man do? He is the Daphne Blake of Eldritch Possession. And so the mission after that became, okay, find out what happened to Colm Ryan. At the time, we weren't really aware, if I recall, that Chase the Sun was explicitly connected yet. We just knew from The Idea, a previous chat with The Idea, that Chase the Sun was the symbol of a fallen sibling. And at that time, I believe the nameless voice hadn't come into play yet. And so when we said that name to The Idea, he wasn't hearing white noise around it yet. He just said it was his fallen sibling. So then that also begs the question of what is it about the nameless returning that specifically caused, all the voices just be like, hey, what's going on?
Which brings us to the witness. Most Damons are unable to remember Chase the Sun clearly. Questions they were able to answer before, prior to when this plot kicked into gear, are now difficult.
They recognize the absence, but they can only remember glimpses of what was there before. If you say her old name, Chase the Sun, they say they only hear noise. Often they can't recognize her old tongue name either, saying that it just feels like numbness when their hosts perform the symbol.
The Idea advised players that to understand what happened, we need a witness, someone who saw it happen. He believes it's one of his siblings' hosts because he heard them gossiping. They are voices. They can't keep their mouths shut.
So far, from what we know, Speak as One is out of the question. The Idea said their host would lie. Nayeli and Siobhan were both outside of the house when it happened, arguing. Nayeli is a confirmed Speak as One host, but Siobhan is uncertain.
The Idea is also out. He doesn't remember, and nor does his fragment in that room. He remembers some things, but says he needs someone else.
The Measure Cuts is out. In a dream, he gave us the tip from Gwen, who lives in 921. Or at least did, before he moved her out.
Die For You is also out. The idea said that Die For You would tell him if Die For You knew anything, because apparently they're just that fucking tight now. Look at that. That's player intention affecting the narrative. Good job, guys.
In Her Teeth is out. In a personal dream, she told a player that her host saw him at the window, quote, as if his will wasn't his own, almost as if he felt guilt about what he was about to do, end quote.
Laugh Last is out. His host only saw a car pulled up the next day blasting music. And we now know that that was the known caller's car.
The people we haven't heard from yet are Dance For Us, See the Grudge, Chase the Sun herself, and The Hunter. But any players can help with the investigation. If you want to start asking questions, start sending prayers.
What are you planning to do next with this?
Well, next, I'm hoping to reconnect with the caller and possibly get some more information. Right now, my main priority is to find out what the heck happened with Colm Ryan. This could be an entire novel on its own. It's amazing. I love this plot line. But right now, that's my top priority, is find out what happened to Colm Ryan. Because I think if we can figure out, what happened with him, why the symbol was broken, and the intent that he had when it was broken, I think we'll have a massive key to the plot in Redacre.
So obviously this is all very interesting, and I'm sure there are other people who are going to want to help you investigate. So how can other players get involved?
I would absolutely recommend sending prayers off to The Idea about it. At the moment, he can really, only reliably respond to people who sent him lights. But yes, absolutely, send him a light and ask him about Colm Ryan, ask him about his nameless sister, ask him about the symbol, and see what he tells you.
The harvest season is part of what is known as the Halloween update. If you've been playing the game, you've probably noticed all the neat-ass fucking costumes that we've been given, and also the increased decorations around the town. Harvest season is referred to by the demons as a time of change. It is viewed as a holiday on their parts as well as their human hosts. A lot of the demons do not seem entirely comfortable or safe with regards to it. Speak as One especially seems to fear it. Harvest season is a time of change. They may have plans to change themselves during it.
Which is terrifying when you're a xenophobic hive mind, I'm sure.
Look, they're just a poor little nanny bot that is afraid of change, the internet, mobile phones, and children with strange piercings. Leave them alone. They're not trying at all.
And yet they allow you to keep walking around with that hair. The Idea gave people masks to protect them from it. They look like his symbol. Beyond that, who the fuck knows? The harvest season started with Halloween, but according to Null, harvest isn't just one day. Much like in real life, it's a whole season.
The Hunter is out in force at this time of recording, but we have no answers yet. Maybe we'll find out. Lavanya has been doing breaking news newsletters on our Twitter. They summarize lore from the past week, and the newsletter is usually posted on Monday. You can find it at our Twitter, @TheDreamingPC. Cal, Archer's Volley, and Skigulium has made a lore master doc. If you want to see the info the community has compiled so far, check it out. They're trying to source as much info as possible with transcripts and videos. It's a wonderful project and a huge help. You can find that at tinyurl.com/tbcloreguidev2. Spoderman has made a transcript master doc. This is a valuable place to see old interactions because all past transcripts posted publicly on the Discord have been compiled here. Information is on the doc, tinyurl.com/tbctranscripts. There's also now an official interaction archive on the Discord. This archives both God Talks and personal dreams, and picks up where Spoderman's archives left off. There is an option to allow your encounter to be used to support the wiki, which is heavily encouraged. As a community, we want to create resources that will help everyone navigate the game and the metagame. Join the Discord to get involved at discord.gg/theblackoutclub. The Blackout Club is made by Question Games. Our advertising director is Bellamy. Our transcript and video is by Lavanya. Audio editing is by me, Astro. Spoderman is our publicity. Xavier never washes her black socks.